Hello out there, it's me, Victoire. It is Sunday, 6 p.m. on January the 12th, 2025. And here is our moon, the evening before the full moon. So the moon at this time is still in Gemini until half of the day tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday, the 13th of January. And then it turns into Capricorn. So it'll be the full moon. No, I think it's Cancer. Yes, it's Cancer. It'll be the full moon in Cancer starting tomorrow night. So it's pretty exciting, and it's a pretty powerful moon, like a huffing, puffing dragon moon. A huffing, puffing dragon of a moon. So we're going to see what that means. I have no idea what that means, but I heard it kinda. It said it was a huffing, puffing, and I added the dragon because that's exactly the vision that I saw. A huffing and puffing dragon of a moon. So the full moon in Cancer begins tomorrow night. It's pretty exciting, huh, guys? For the ones that are suffering, my heart goes out to you because I know everywhere on earth we're all experiencing something different. Some of us are still with that turmoil, but that doesn't mean it will last. As we all know, there's shifting, there's dismantling going on around the world to create the new. So we all have to remember to be one, one with love from our hearts, full of compassion, and no matter what we're going through, try as hard as you can to remain in gratitude. Gratitude for the smallest of things. In full gratitude. Because as I have learned in the last 2 years, I've always been grateful in my life, but gratitude in the last 2 years meant something different to me. It was like an awakening of how potent that energy is. It's extremely potent. The more in gratitude that you are, the more that comes your way. And that I didn't know. I've learned that in the last 2 years. Ooh, there's a flight going through, and as you guys know, I adore planes. I just got through giving a shout out to my friend Gary, because as I walked out to set Jody Mae free, because her leg is not limping right now, so I'm letting her run around and act like a silly little goose with Shoo for a bit. A small plane came through. And of course, once a day, I give my closest friend who's in heaven now, Gary, a shout out. And always telling me you be flying your little plane all over the Texas sky, Gary. Because that was his joy. That was his joy. Solitude in the air and yet never alone. He was very spiritual as I am. I've always been into intuition, into intuitive, like taking precaution thanks to my intuition. I've saved the day many a times over the years with my family, with people around me, with coworkers, thanks to my intuition, guys. And I'll always remember, this was 2012. I bought this little house, and my goal was to gift it to my daughter. And my son had already gotten his house, or was about to. I forgot if he had already gotten it. No, he was about to. So I knew I was going to help her first. She was the youngest, and then help him second, equally, But things kind of like didn't turn out that way, But I remember my youngest one telling me, there's no such thing as intuition, Mom. And me explaining to her how incorrect that statement was. Of course there is intuition. You have to listen to your gut. Whenever you get knots instantly, something's wrong. And sure enough, for me, the perfect example for teaching my youngest one exactly that fact was Okay, so I buy the little house. No, I'm not kidding. A little under 1,000 square feet, and next door lived a couple. I think it was boyfriend and girlfriend, but they were like a married couple. And her adult children lived with them, and it was her children, yes. And as soon as I was starting to look at the house, he wouldn't stop coming over to the property and really butting in. And to the point where, the intuition kicked in. Back off, Vic, be careful. Because all the hair in the back of my neck was standing up, When you get that gut instinct that there's something wrong, oh boy, is there something wrong. Well, we buy the house at the end of May 2012, and, I can't shake it. That strong, strong fear of that man next door. And he was about my age at the time. I was probably about, I don't know, 55 maybe, I'm thinking. Yeah, about 55 years old. And yeah, I think that's about how old I was. But I'll always remember July came around, July 4th actually came around, and my son came to save the day for me. There was a huge stone, huge, 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 and I was strong still back then. I'm not strong now, but I was really strong then. I couldn't lift it. And so he came over, helped me lift the big, big, big stone. And my goal was to put it in the spot under the mailbox, really close to the front porch, because the mailman kept coming there and the gutter would flood the area every time it rained. So sure enough, it worked perfect. It ended up being the huge stepping stone for my mailman. And the man next door, of course, shows up as fast as he can. We live like 5 feet apart, from each other's walls, the edges of our houses. And he shakes hands with my son in the front yard and he says, "Who is this fine young man?" And oh my God, you guys, the intuition. Oh, the intuition, the intuition. And I'm thinking my son read me because I became very, very cold. And the men next door finally left. But later that day, again, July 4th, 2012, my mother-in-law's best friend arrives, to come see the house and visit for a minute. He does the same thing, and she read my mind also. She got to see that I was so uncomfortable. She started not answering any of his questions, and he went back to his house. So this is July 4th, and I had the day off that day. And the very next day, I come back from work. My daughter, I was at home, and I had brought pizza. So we're sitting on the couch, and the couch had the back to the big, big window in the living room. So her and I are seated there as if we were camping, and having a picnic. Let's put it that way. And all of a sudden, I see the men next door arrive full blast with his car, and he leaves, I'm gonna say that word wrong. He leaves his door wide open of his car, and I'm staring at him from my front living room window as I'm eating away on my pizza, and my little one's saying, "Mom, stop being rude." And I'm like, "We've got drapes, he can't see me." They were shears, and I was still staring, and it was intuition again, and I saw him throw clothes in his vehicle and take off as fast as he could. So I was like, that is just so strange. And again, my little one, my youngest, here goes Joni Mae swimming in the cold, cold water. But okay, so my youngest one's like, again, repeating after me to stop staring outside the window. So that was that. So he leaves, and then you can't count 2 minutes that somebody's knocking on the door, and it's the son next door, and he's in his probably 40s and unemployed, living at home with mom, and he wants to talk to my daughter, and my daughter's like, Mom, the neighbors next door and he wants to talk. And I'm like, well, he's your neighbor, huh? Because remember, my goal was to give her the house. He's your neighbor. You go out and talk to him. I'm not talking to him. I had worked all day. I just wanted to sit, on the couch and enjoy pizza. But, anything to do with the grown man that was my age next door, whoa, I focused on that. But anything else, no, not really. So sure enough, the son next door starts unloading to my daughter. And what had happened is a investigative, private, undercover team was parked in an unmarked car about 5 houses down from the house next door, but across the street, staring at the house next door, which is the creep's house. And I'm going to call him Creep because, boy, was he ever creepy. I'm not just being rude here. I'll tell you why next. But they tell the son next door why they're staring at his mother's house, because he approached them across the road, because he was friends with everybody across the street and down the road, because he didn't work. And so he approached the car, and they told him they were there to arrest the man that lived with his mother, and wanted to know where he was. So the son next door told the investigative team that he was at working in this roofing company that was famous here in Garland, Texas. And so they left and went to get him there. But in between, the son, who was told why they were looking for him, calls his mother's boyfriend at work and tells him, you murderer, you murderer. And that's all it took. So when I witnessed the grown man, 50-something-year-old man next door, rush into the driveway, that's what that was about. He had a heads up. So he got all his stuff, took off, and he disappeared, I'm going to say, for 2-3 months, and he was hiding out in his parents' home in Austin, Texas. So from Garland, Texas to Austin, Texas, it's quite a distance. I don't know, 5-6 hours away, maybe, something like that. Maybe not quite that far, 4 hours away maybe. But so that's what happened. And of course, the state of Texas was still on a hunt for him, and they finally got him. And when they got him and it went to court, the mom next door, who was his girlfriend, started unloading to me, because it was so heavy on her heart. And the state of Texas was forcing her pretty much to show up in court. And she didn't want to, but she had to. And what he was arrested for was committing murders of 80-something-year-old women in Austin, Texas in the 1980s, rolling them up in carpet and leaving them for dead in their own homes, in their hallways. And come to find out, when she goes to court, like a whole year later, she finds out he had done it to more than one older lady. So he was definitely a serial killer at this point. And then I find out from the grown-up kids of the lady next door that at the time that I bought the house, their mother became so ill, she was bedridden, and they're almost positive that he was poisoning her because he was into me. And for me, I was 100% guarded, not allowing him in my home nor in my yard. Well, one day I'll always remember this, and this is before all this happened. My daughter calls me at work and she says, Mom, the man next door just walked in the house, and we ended up talking and stuff. And I'm like losing it with her, telling her, you have to use your intuition. You have to lock the door. What are you doing? So she was already a little bit on edge, even though she didn't really want to admit it. But at the time, during the month between the time that I closed on the house and we moved in at the end of May 2012, between there and July 5th of 2012, before he ran away to hide out at his parents' home in Austin, Texas, my daughter during that time before July 5th kept telling me, Mom, he's having barbecues with the neighbors across the street. They're real estate agents. You know, everybody loves him. You're the only one with the problem, Mom. Everybody loves him. Well, I was correct. And it was the intuition. It was the gut instinct. It was instant. From the moment that I went to look at that house and he showed up on the front porch, all the hair on the back of my neck went up. And it was God's, my higher self, whatever you want to call it, God's source energy, just warning me, don't trust, be aware, protect your child here. There's something wrong with this man. And I was correct, guys. So this is my lesson about intuition and how my daughter got to find out the meaning of intuition and its importance in your life. And I've always had it since I was born, more than likely. And because I can remember as far, far, far back being a little kid judging adults who were not good adults. They were not good people. In my little village in France, I knew who was good and who wasn't. And when my mom was enraged at my big sister, and my aunt raised me for a few years, but when I was back into my mom's house after school started for me is when I became, I'm going to call it a resident at my mother's house with my brother and my sister. My mom was a widow. When she was really mean to my big sister, I would give her looks like, how dare you? You should be ashamed of yourself. And I was, 6, 7 years old at the time. But I remember doing that, and I remember her walking backwards because she would pull my sister's ponytails. She had 2 ponytails all the time, and she would pull on them, and I would give her a look like, you better back off, and it would work. I would call her off of my sister. And my sister was 3 years older than me, mind you. So if I'm 6, my sister's 9 at the time. But my sister was my mom's best friend, my mom's little helper. Mama's little helper, that was my sister. So I guess she did lots of things to torment my mom. I'll give you an example how she tormented my mom. I'll always remember my mom would visit her best friend across the street, and they'd have coffee and a piece of cake together, like best friends do. And my sister decided, and I wasn't home at the time, I just walked in when there was like a rage going on in our tiny, tiny little duplex at our home in France. My sister had decided to make bread for my mom. She was probably about 10, 11 years old at that time. And she had put so much yeast that the bread had gone from the top shelf in our kitchen all the way to the floor and had crawled on the kitchen floor. It's kind of hilarious when you think about it, but it enraged my mom. Okay, then it gets worse. My sister decided, because my mom left, she was just besides herself, I guess. And when my mother came back, my sister had decided to take the big bucket of water and start mopping the hard tile floors. Well, you can just imagine what happened with that, huh? So yeah, she was my mom's best friend. She was my mom's little helper, but gave my mother lots of reasons to go insane, I guess. And as for me, I knew better. Just get out of the way. I was never home, ever, ever, ever. Not in France, not in New York, and definitely not in Texas. Ever since I was 12 years old, I had my first job at Dairy Queen, and it went from there. I never stopped working, just to stay out of the line of fire. And that was intuition, and that saved me, because it sure did not save my sister's sanity. Definitely. It was a big detriment in her life for staying near my mother, and then my mother remarried. So there was a stepfather involved, and you can just imagine if there's chaos, there was chaos, yeah. But again, back to the subject of intuition, intuition, intuition. Trust it. Go with it. If something's calling you to not trust, don't trust. Stay away from what you don't trust. And that was my big, big, big message to my daughter. And I'm hoping that she listens to herself, listens to her gut instinct. about who's got her best interest for her in her life, from family, because it starts with family, then to friends, co-workers later on, whatever, husbands, whatever goes on in one's life as we age. Oh, trust your gut. Yeah, trust your gut, guys. So on this evening before the beautiful full moon in Cancer of tomorrow night, I have unloaded my 2 cents about intuition, guys. So on that note, I'm going to wish you all a beautiful night and wish you the best. And for the ones suffering in floods, fires, famine, anything, poverty, anything that you're suffering from, we love you guys. Know that humanity is praying for you, and I know that because we are all one. When someone hurts out there, we feel it, guys. Even if we're busy with our day, with the everyday tasks that everybody goes through, it's still in our thoughts, it's still in our guts, it's still in our hearts. We feel your pain, guys. So we love you out there. You stay strong, whatever you're going through, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.